Welcome, one and all, to another edition of the Defo Show with Luby here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Brought to you by Water Cleanup of Florida. The rains have been here. We know what that does to our homes and our offices, but it's nothing to worry because Water Cleanup of Florida is there to help you. 954-579-0356, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Michael, Robert, George, their entire team with over 60 years of combined experience. They will be there to answer the call, to come out, fix the issue, and because of their licensed, certified, insured contractors, make it look brand new. All you have to do is call 954-579-0356 or check out their website, wcufl.com. Check them out on the socials at Water Cleanup FL. Believe me, with all that happens to our homes or offices, they were there for my wife and myself with our townhouse, and it made things so much easier. They'll do the same thing for you. Along with what I have to say, check out Google. Over 85-star reviews. Water Cleanup of Florida. If you have the schmutz, believe me, they have the guts. The Miami Dolphins for years were lots of schmutz. Well, right now, they're lots of guts. Mike McDaniel, Tua, Tyreek Hill, Chubb, Van Ginkel, Phillips, X, Cater Kohu. The list goes on and on. Vic Fangio is bringing the blitzes. Wherever you look, the Miami Dolphins just capped off a 3-0 start to the season with a 70-20 massive victory over the Denver Broncos. We talked about it with John Congemi. Worked with CBS 4. He's worked with ESPN. Finsider himself knows it. Dolphins inside and out. Talked about the Dolphins 3-0 start. Dolphins big victory versus the Broncos and more right here. The Defo Show with Luby on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
We want to get into a really level-headed perspective here, and a guy that does a great job on everything he does. And it's always a pleasure to welcome this man to the program. Brought to you by Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. That's right there at Key Largo. You get past all of that stuff, Florida City. Don't stop at a gas station, as we were saying, and get a sandwich. Just roll a little bit further, and on the right side there, as you're heading south, boom, there's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. You can get everything that you want there and more, and it's all exquisite. We welcome to the show the great John Congemi. John, how are you, my friend? It was good seeing you yesterday.
Oh, good seeing you as well. Good listening to you guys. I couldn't agree with you more on some of the points you guys made about the Dolphins. It's incredible the start that they've had, and it's fun to watch as a fan. You know, when you were trying to be creative on how you interpreted losses over the last, decade. It's fun just to say, wow, they were the best team, not only on the field today, but they could be the best team in the National Football League through 3 games. I think they are.
Yes, and doing enough defensively to be impressive. That first game was a little ugly, as we were teasing Mike Mayo, the number of yards that they gave up on the rushing game. Made you wonder what the heck this whole hoopla was over Fangio coming in as a defensive coordinator. He did take some measures to correct that in that second game of the season, and they were much more effective. But defensively, I mean, Van Ginkel's playing great. You have any number of other guys that are just dancing all over the fields in celebration. And the offense, that was as entertaining. It looked like the Globetrotters against the Generals, didn't it? I mean, everything they did, I was waiting for Tua to throw a bucket of confetti at someone on the sidelines. That was fantastic. They're up in the stands. They're doing everything.
No-look. Tua did a no-look for a touchdown.
Unbelievable, he threw a shovel pass with his right hand, a shovel pass with his left hand. I mean, it was, through the legs, around the back. It was sensational. And then Tyreek Hill, I don't know. Do they not know that he's really good and really fast, and they have to do something different than just let him go in motion and get a full, head of steam, and everybody just backs off, and it allows him so much room that he's really going, untouched in terms of getting to where he's supposed to be in the route, and the ball's gone because of that. So Tua's jersey and pants were clean all day, and then you've got Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane. I guess Devon ran so fast he started dropping the I in his name now. It's a Chan now instead of Achane. So yes. He runs for over 200 yards. And it was just, once you thought they couldn't top themselves, they did it. And then they did it again. And then the defense is starting to come alive too. I think they're getting comfortable with what they want to do at linebacker and playing long a lot more, getting Van Ginkel into the mix a little bit more, getting Kohu on the edge, who tackles really well as a complement to the other side with X. This is a dangerous football team. And anytime you can kick, 10 extra points, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, 70, I mean, close to the record. And it's interesting to think that you have a team where the big story was whether or not Mike McDaniel should have gone ahead for the record or taken a knee. In deference to the Gator flop, I think he absolutely did the right thing in that spot there because, he explained it in his usual Nietzsche-like fashion and said, we don't take the field necessarily to, set records. So we're not thinking about that. We're out there trying to win games. And, it was much more, it was a Shula-esque move, was it not? I mean, you could hear Shula from the grave saying, take a knee, take a knee. and they did, which was great.
I love McDaniel's explaining something. It's almost like he gets into his eyes drop, his head drops, his words start to slow, and then somebody goes cattle prod, and then he hit him with it, and he finishes the sentence. It's crazy,
true,
but he's so methodical the way and cerebral the way he thinks about coaching and players and mentality and the way he treats his guys. Man, he pushes all the right buttons, and he seems like he gets the most out of his football team. And it's fun to watch because they're having fun. They're having fun on the field. They're having fun on the sidelines, and they haven't had too much of a bump in the road. I think they drug New England around a little bit, in that game where it's, could have put them away a lot easier. The first game was against a really quality opponent, and that was back and forth. And they won in different ways, guys. You got to remember the defense really held them in against New England, where the offense was so explosive against the Chargers. And, that was going to be whoever had the ball last almost, you felt like was going to win until Vic Fangio, sent the dogs on Herbert and kind of ended the game with the defense. So this has been a team that, although we were talking about how explosive they've been on offense, you have to remember midway point during that game at Hard Rock Stadium, McDaniel goes for it on fourth down. They get stuffed. It's 21-10 at the time. They get the ball. Denver and Russell Wilson tees it up at the Dolphins' 33-yard line. And they go 3 plays for -7 yards and have to punt the football back to the Dolphins. They turn around and, turn it into points. Van Ginkel gets a fumble recovery. Holland has 2 strips of the football, 2 forced fumbles. Kohu picks up the other one. Van Ginkel almost scores, gets it down to the 3, and Mostert waltzes into the end zone. It's just, complimentary football when the offense goes for it and they don't get it. Man, the defense gets it right back and kind of turned a game that felt like it was in hand already. It could have been different at 21-10. They go down and score. It's 21-17. You're going, oh man, we're playing our lights out, and we have a 4-point lead. So that was kind of fun to watch the Dolphins, get themselves and kind of keep on the accelerator and keep going and really create separation between them and the Broncos.
Sensational performance. Even their post-touchdown celebration was as well coordinated.
Yeah, that was awesome.
A celebration as I've ever seen, I believe. Well, we've had all kinds of stuff. I mean, individuals have come up with stuff. You had the Iggy Shuffle. You had Ocho Cinco with the River Dance. That was great. Of course, Dion with the high stepping. But I don't know that I've seen a team-coordinated dance like that. And, it speaks to, your reference to the idea that the team is literally very together and having fun. I mean, those kind of things come about from a level of confidence. And, we were always speculating, well, is Tua able to do this or Tua able to do that? It does appear, I mean, from those kind of moments especially, that, it's a club that really has a deep-rooted belief in Tua Tagovailoa, that he's a guy that can, lead them to a championship, and sustain this level of play. As I don't even want to say it. Do we throw in the cliche? As long as he stays healthy, which
I think he's going to. I mean, if teams
he looks stronger this year too, doesn't he?
He's bigger. He's stronger. If teams can't figure out how to reroute Tyreek Hill and how to slow down those Dolphin options at the line of scrimmage when they motion to get leverage and make it easier for the pass game, it's going to be a long season for opposing defenses, and it's going to be a season where Tua is not touched very much, unless somebody completely whiffs on a pass coverage, on a pass blocking, or they misidentify at the line of scrimmage, or you have some injuries up front that kind of derail what they're doing. I don't see Tua taking many hits because the ball's been gone under 2 seconds consistently. And the funny thing, guys, I think CBS Sports had this somewhere online. I was looking at it, and it's a wild coincidence that through 3 games last year and this year, Tua's 3-0. The Dolphins are 3-0. Tua gets a large part credit for that. But pass attempts and completions, 72 out of 101 both years.
Wow.
And 8 touchdowns to 2 interceptions through 3 games. They don't now, the yards necessarily going to differ because they've been very explosive this year. But it goes to show you, I think last year they started out well protected, ball out on time, offensive explosiveness, until they hit the Bills game where he ended up being concussed, where he got, sacked and pressured and different style of defense. Now, I don't think the Bills are the Bills of last year, the year before that. There's a little bit of a tarnish on what we think of the Bills are this year, but I think the Dolphins have raised their level, which creates some separation between the two teams. Now, does that carry over when they get to Orchard Park and the crazy fans and they hit adversity, something happens in the game? Can they right the ship, or do they just continue and make the Bills chase them all game? That's where you'd like to see the game played, where it's not back and forth, but the Dolphins have a 10-point lead. They have a 13-point lead, and Josh Allen needs to press the accelerator because that's when he makes mistakes.
Yep.
Yeah, it's obviously a huge litmus test here. And as you said, I mean, it came upon the same set of circumstances somewhat last year. I keep hearing Burgess Meredith in my head, and it was a philosophy, speaking of the Big Chill, of the great Jimmy Johnson. And that is, you need speed.
Yep.
And the Dolphins have been talking about that for a while. All teams seem to want to address that in the modern age of professional football. And if this isn't one of the fastest teams that you've seen, especially on the offensive side, you have probably, I mean, if they did a race, a 40-yard dash, you'd have Mostert right there.
You'd have a tie with 4 players or 5 players.
Yeah.
That's how fast they are.
Yeah, he's lane 4, in the finals there. And now, how are you pronouncing this kid's name now? I never knew how to pronounce it in the first place.
With a Chan, I think it is now.
A Chan.
Oh, now
Okay.
It's a Chan. Okay.
A Chain was all through the last month and a half.
Yes,
I'm going to just call him A Chain until somebody tells me,
But I'm going to call him Tony Dorsett because he looks very promising. And that was another one of those strange things that people immediately start to question. What are they drafting a running back for? They got all of these other guys. What happened with Jeff Wilson? By the way, I haven't seen.
He's been on IR for 4 weeks. He had an injury in training camp, but I thought he might be trade bait in terms of getting something else in the secondary if he needed, or maybe another offensive lineman, or I don't know where the guy's going to fit right now, because it wasn't like Ahmed was playing poorly when he had his opportunities. He looked fantastic in the preseason, and he carried it over into the regular season. So you've got 3 backs right now, and plus you've got Brooks, who's the bigger back that came in and ripped off I don't know how he had a 52-yarder as his long in the game, late in the game. So you've got a great stable of running backs, and you didn't even talk about adding Jeff Wilson to the mix. I don't know where he fits.
Yeah. No, it's amazing the depth that they have at that position, at a position where a lot of teams have considered running backs to be interchangeable. You have a cachet of guys that are all dangerous, including, the 4-touchdown man himself. And later on in the program, we'll have his agent on, Brett Tesser, just by coincidence been doing shows with us forever. And now his guy is, among the stars in the league and very much in the spotlight in terms of offensive player of the week and player of the month considerations. This guy has been fantastic so far. All right. After you played a long time, a lot of different levels, football, John Congemi, after, and this happens in a lot of sports, after a razor sharp performance, there's a tendency to think, okay, this is easy. We're going to be able to duplicate it and replicate it time after time, the old Cyndi Lauper thing. But, sometimes there's a big, a letdown after that. I mean, you couldn't have had a more perfect performance by the offense. So, how do you guard against that if you're going into preparation for a road game? Or is it just, in your opinion, John, that the Dolphins have so much talent that this should be the norm to expect that type of thing on a somewhat regular basis?
I think more of the latter, Defo and Luby, because Mike McDaniel and this Miami Dolphin team have set a standard for themselves, and it's not hey, let's get 30 again today, or let's get 40, or let's get X amount of first downs or explosive plays. Their standard is Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl, and they want to be able to go out each and every week and play to the level that will accomplish that standard. And I don't care. It's almost like a faceless opponent every week. Yes, you're preparing for different defensive ends and the way corners play with leverage. And, we've got to double this guy at the point of attack if we're going to try to run the ball here. I think that they're going up against their standard every week. And do they meet their level of accomplishment? Are we playing at a high percentage in the pass game? Are we getting a certain amount of explosive plays when they're there? Are we blitzing at a certain percentage that it doesn't expose us somewhere on defense? They've got their they've got their standards at every level, on special teams, on offense, and on defense. And I think they're playing against themselves in terms of, are we reaching these milestones? And if we are, man, you got to look way in the distance in the rearview mirror to find the other team, because we should be well ahead of our level of play. And I think that's where their focus is. Yes, you're game planning for Buffalo, and you're game planning for Sean McDermott, what he's going to do on defense and how they're going to utilize Allen in the run game, because he's run all over the Miami Dolphin defense. Every time he plays him, he averages 70 yards, I think, a game on the ground, or some outrageous number. But they're playing against themselves and what their expectations are. And I think that they've exceeded those through 3 games, because I didn't have them winning on the road against the Chargers. I had them beating New England, and I had them beating Denver, and then going on the road and maybe going through the first 4 games at 2-2. And that would have been okay. They would have still been in the mix. They would be right on schedule, but they have a chance to go 4-0 and really put everybody, a couple of games behind them. And that's a good thing for the way to start the season for the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, I mean, you also mentioned, they got off to the same kind of start last year. Ended up 9-8, which was a disappointment. You did have Tua missing 4 games out last year, and
they lost 5 in a row during that road stretch out west.
Yeah.
And yeah,
when the schedule got to a more challenging level, although as we know, and I don't even think it's cliche anymore to say that literally any win in the National Football League is something to go ahead and take account of, because look at Dallas, that they were cruising 2-0, looked like a juggernaut, and they lose to Arizona, a team that we think is tanking.
Yep.
Who blew like a 20-some-odd point lead against the Giants just the previous week, and their fans were pacified with the idea that, okay, good, Caleb Williams is coming to us. But, and then they go out and they literally put a beating on the Dallas Cowboys, where Jerry was already, making reservations at Caesars for the penthouse up there, getting ready to host his Super Bowl parties. And all of a sudden that gets derailed. Of the 3 teams that are 3-0, and not to discount teams that are 2-1 or even 1-2 at this stage, because a lot of things could change over the course of the rest of the season. But you would have to say San Francisco obviously represents a threat. They seem like a well-rounded, very professional team on both sides. I mean, offense and defense. They seem to make very smart plays. They're clutch, enough talent, and standout talent at certain positions to be a big factor all the way. Philadelphia, I mean, we saw what they did last year. They're not as sharp this year so far, but maybe, in a position where they could round into form over the course of time. Is it fair to say, and not just because we're here in South Florida, John, and obviously you've been with the team for many, many years, covering them with the Finsiders and now with CBS 4. And once again, remarkable that you could be at that stadium all day on a 95-degree day, and down on the field there, it's 10 degrees warmer for sure. I mean, it's sizzling hot. I remember standing down there. I used to do those on-field announcements. I've said this many times. One time I was on a field for a late September game. Before the game even started, it's not even 1 o'clock yet. And I was wearing a pair of, rarely would I ever have like what would be considered dress shoes on, but for some reason I was wearing like a regular pair of shoes. I had to do something where I was, I had to actually show up in like a shirt and tie before the ball game. And I remember I was thinking, what is wrong with me? My feet actually were on fire.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Just standing there. But how you could look so good, like 10 hours after being at the stadium, is pretty remarkable. I mean, you looked
I felt
every bit as
bad
good
for
as
the
it gets.
Denver. They had 3 guys doing a Denver pregame show, and they all had jackets and suits on,
Yeah.
no ties. They after the half hour was up, they all got up. They took their jackets off, and there was nothing but
Schwitz.
soaking wet, schwitzing from neck all the way down to the dress socks through the pants. It was. I hope they had a change of clothes or just had a chance to go do something because they had to be miserable. It was so hot. It's so hot on the opposing sideline where they have the media compared to
On
the
the sun
Dolphins
side.
sideline. It's
Yeah.
at least 20 to 25 degrees hotter from the Dolphins sideline to the visiting sideline.
I used to sit in some lower bowl seats there, right around the 50-yard line. That one of my sponsors, the great people at Deal Volkswagen, are gracious enough to give me for the Patriots games that the Mustang wanted to attend, and you could not sit there. You couldn't sit in the seats.
Yeah.
But you look. I mean, you sparkle right through all of that, John.
We're trying, man.
Great.
We're trying hard. Boy, after that light goes off, we sprint to the shade. That's for
sure. Yeah, and we were saying earlier, I mean, it was right around, I was in Atlantic City when the 2-year anniversary rolled around of us getting dumped by 940 wins. And, here was now what is one of 2 all-sports stations in town. Can you imagine? I mean, I keep thinking, I mean, how do we top this? What's been going on this year? It's in the greatest year of South Florida sports in the history of the area. Going all the way back, Henry Flagler hadn't even decided to lay some tracks down. We haven't had a year like this in sports. Perfect time to have like no local sports programming
right
on your sports talk stations. I mean, it's insane what's happened here, and the Dolphins continue to perpetuate that. I don't know if you caught, and I only caught a little of this out of the corner of my eye. It was like a very distant consideration for the people in the sports book. I don't know if a lot of people were betting Miami Temple. I think there was like a 23-point line on something in that area. Canes were favored. I did catch some of it, and I saw some highlights later on. So far, I mean, sort of surprising to me. I mean, it does look like, I don't want to jinx it, but it looks like Mario Cristobal, widely criticized for not doing much of a job last year, maybe has orchestrated or at least begun to spin the wheels of some kind of positive turnaround.
Well, they look more organized. They look more like what you would expect in year 2 for Mario Cristobal. The offensive line has gotten better. They've changed coordinators, I think, on Van Dyke maybe 3 times in 3 years. And they found something that's closer to when he was a freshman. And I think that's helped him. I think they've gotten better at wide receiver. I think Jason Taylor's helped the defensive front enormously. I think that they've kind of found their mojo, so to speak, in terms of playing with a little bit more confidence and a little less with the mental errors or stupid plays that give you a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conducts, even though they still have one safety that's going to get one every game. That's been playing there for 3 or 4 years now. They're playing with more confidence, and I think they're playing with that swagger you like to see with more consistency. You hated to see them play with swagger and then continually kick themselves, in the backside because of mistakes, mental mistakes and physical mistakes. They're trimming those, and I think the level of competition other than Texas A&M has allowed them to play early with confidence and get ready for, a trip maybe to North Carolina or Virginia or somewhere where they're going to be. It's going to be in, down to the fourth quarter within a touchdown. Now, do those qualities you showed early in the season, do they continue to bleed through, or is it more of the same from last year? That's going to be the threshold for Miami, to that hurdle to get over. Can they overcome the shortcomings of what's held them back over the last couple of seasons in terms of mental and physical mistakes? when they get in a game with an opponent that has equal talent to them. They did it against Texas A&M. Texas A&M blew the game early. You know, they had that kid on the 5-yard line. All he has to do is catch the ball and go north, and he hits his head on the goalpost. He decides to go outside. You know, they hold him to a 10-point, field goal, and they had a 10-point lead. Gave Miami some confidence to get back in the game, and they took advantage. And then they were the better team for the majority of that game. It'll be interesting when they play a team that's of equal talent and they get into a tight game, which team shows up? The team that plays with confidence and less mistakes, or the team that's, still not sure of themselves and kicking themselves in the foot?
Certainly seem less chaotic. I mean, as you said, the caliber of competition outside of Texas A&M not giving you a tremendous indicator as to just how good they're going to be. But at least in these spots, they are looking sharp. And last year, it seemed like there was just pandemonium, both offensively and defensively. And as you also alluded to, John, they were still doing all of these gesticulations and gyrations after every play, as if they would stop a guy finally after giving up 87 yards on a drive and dancing and prancing around the field. And then on the very next play, the guy go in and
touchdown.
Score.
What happened?
How
about FSU, Clemson?
We want to get into that. Yeah, we want to get into that because I wanted to. I was concerned, and there were many people, even in Atlantic City, as far away as Atlantic City, New Jersey, that were concerned about the well-being of one Mike Lubitz, as it appeared that FSU was going to go down in flames in that game to Clemson, and somehow managed to pull it off. And at the end of that ball game, I mean, when that kid missed the field goal. Maybe it's karma in reverse. Bobby Bowden having some kind of influence from the grave on kicks by the opposition after getting kicked in the ass. I mean, literally had a pigskin shoved right up his rear end all of those years. I mean, how close was this guy to maybe one of the monstrous, if he didn't already have a brilliant coaching careers of all time? I mean, a couple of field goal tries away from multiple national championships that he was deprived of. It's incredible. So we'll get into that and talk college and pro football all the way around the slate. Local teams obviously doing well. The Gators, a bit of a surprise also so far this year, I think, after that abysmal start against Utah. And I literally had to schwitz out that Ohio State game against Notre Dame.
Oh, no, you had that game?
This was one of the more bizarre finishes, and it shows you how gambling has changed everything in terms of your perspective. And we were talking about this a little bit yesterday, John. I mean, $5 on a ball game, and everything becomes monumental, of paramount importance. Every little decision, including them putting a half a second back on the clock there, which it essentially ruined everybody.
Yeah.
As the game ended up as a push as a result of that. All right, we'll get into all of that. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, though. I can't wait to get down there. And it'll be a lot of fun, doing all of the shows down there from Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. Great place. Our memories of being there, John, are nothing but spectacular. When you can still envision like a dish coming out of the kitchen, like that was a year and a half ago we were down there. And I tried the Italian fisherman pizza for the first time, somewhat reluctantly also, because I was thinking, what are they going to put on there? Squid? It was so mind-blowing, as was everything else. I think people aren't necessarily expecting, and this largely due to your brother, that level of high-end quality when it comes to the food, whether you're talking about the casual stuff or even the, fine dining that they have available to you as well.
Yeah, I think that's what makes the Big Chill so special. You can pop in and get a pizza and go to the Tiki Bar and kind of enjoy the breezes of South Florida and the Keys, or get some fine dining in the restaurant, or just watch a game at the sports bar. You've got plenty of options there, which makes it unique. And it's so close to Miami and Fort Lauderdale. From where I'm at, it's probably an hour and 15 minutes down. And as soon as you get to Key Largo, you just, lean to the right and you see Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, and it's right there. And you kind of feel at ease when you get on property, and they treat you with first-class service, and you mentioned the first-class food. So you throw in the views of that Bayside, and you've got a winner at Jimmy Johnson's at any time of the year, especially during football season. They have the big screens outside. For Monday Night Football, you had probably 2 games last night you can enjoy outside and kind of kick back and relax. So that's the place to be in the Keys for me.
No, they've kind of redone things with regard to are they not putting in some kind of like sort of stadium setting
stadium
there?
seating kind of for
Yeah.
Monday Night Football,
Oh,
and I
wow.
think on the weekends it's been crazy at the sports bar, and the tiki bar has been doing great. So yeah, it's a theater type atmosphere down at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill for the football games, and can't wait to get back down there with you guys.
Well, and she is heading for the Keys, thinking we're going to watch the sunset, maybe hold hands together. And you're thinking, geez, they got that stadium seating over there at Jimmy Johnson's. We can actually do both. I can watch my games, and in between plays, go, hey, sweetie, sunset, beautiful, man. Sure is nice to be with you down here. No, it's great.
That's right.
No, and the food really is terrific. So we're looking forward to being down there. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. It's what is it? Mile marker 104. Is that what the number is?
Yeah.
104. What did they start at 100? How does that work in the Keys? Because I mean, it's right there.
Right there.
We were talking about. I mean, you're at a Wawa or whatever in Florida City, and you're thinking, do I really want to get like a gas station sandwich? No. Whoosh, right into Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill and have yourself a blast and some great food and drink and a tremendous place to hang out. All right, coming back with more. John Congemi, the Pigskin Playbook. Very festive edition. Isn't it nice when your teams are winning? I mean, it's so
puts
much
a smile
better.
on your face, that's for sure.
I always felt that negativity sold in this, kind of environment here, this genre. That people just wanted to call up and bitch about everything. But it is a different feeling. It's almost as if you're literally, and not a good thing in this business, at a loss for words to describe how good it is, and find something, anything, any a little. A thing that you could criticize, but that there really hasn't been much of anything along those lines for all of the South Florida teams for some time now. And we haven't even mentioned, we're 44 minutes into the show, we haven't mentioned Messi, which, that's another thing that was just tacked on here to the South Florida sports landscape that, wow, all of a sudden we got like the greatest player in the history of the game is playing for this schmenky team that, couldn't draw any interest whatsoever. And, we're the center of the soccer world as well. All right, coming back with more Pigskin Playbook. John Congemi with us on the Defo Show.
Yes, it's only 3 games, and the Dolphins go on the road to Buffalo to take on the Bills. And what is a big matchup for the Dolphins? If you go win this game, you're up 2 games on the Bills. Bills win this, they keep pace with the Dolphins, and they have an advantage on the Dolphins in the division. So this one's big, but the reality is there's a long season ahead, but it's just fun to see the Dolphins be fun. After years and years and years of Cam Cameron and Dave Wanstead and Joe Philbin and God rest his soul, Tony Sperano, and even Adam Gase, it goes on and on and on with what we've dealt with from Brian Flores, as good as he was as a coach, was horrendous with offense. What we've seen from an offensive disaster since Dan Marino and Don Shula were the head coaches of the Miami Dolphins, it is not only a pleasant surprise, it is euphoria to see the Dolphins be this on offense. Mike McDaniel just have this much faith in not only Tua, but the entire offense. Look, the offensive line, which I thought was a disaster so far with Tua just getting rid of the ball so quickly, it's really helped the offensive line. And Austin Jackson, that entire line has played really well. Kendall Lamb came in for Teron Armstead, and they've played fantastic. John Congemi was a guy that wasn't sure what we'd get from the Dolphins. I know we talked with him a lot in the offseason, and I know he's pleasantly surprised, and he's really happy to see what we're getting. I believed in the Dolphins. I thought they'd be 12 to 13 win team. Look, they're not there yet, but this is the kind of start you wanted to see. 3-0, going on the road and beating the Chargers, going on the road and beating the Patriots, going home to beating the Broncos. Now you go on the road to the Buffalo Bills. Great start for the Dolphins. Super excited for the Dolphins. Look, the Canes undefeated as well. The Knowles undefeated as well. The Gators sitting there in the top 25. UCF undefeated. FIU and FAU's had some pretty interesting starts. USF almost beat Alabama. Been a very fun start to the football season for the state of Florida. Look forward to more of that. Check out everything we do in the morning, 7 to 9 on South Florida Live. Check out our national podcast, The Believe Network, BLEAV.com. We're also doing something every morning, every day, the morning briefing on No Filter, nofilter.net. Check that out there. And check us out here with our South Florida content. The Devo Show with the Luby on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?